Test 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. This past Tuesday, the voters in Festus, Missouri delivered a strong message to City Hall that they wanted to hold their elected city officials accountable. And today I'm here to announce that Wake Up Jeffco LLC is now taking the fight to the city with regard to the proposed data center development. Wake Up Jeffco LLC and 4 affected property owners who live along Glen Key Court have filed a 12-count, 54-page lawsuit captioned Wake Up Jeffco LLC versus City of Festus and CRG acquisition. The case is filed in St. Louis County Circuit Court. The 2 defendants are the city and the data center developer. The lawsuit was filed in St. Louis County because under Missouri court rules, when you have a lawsuit with 2 defendants, you can get to pick which venue. You can file the case in wherever one of the defendants resides. So CRG, their registered agent, is located in St. Louis County. In the lawsuit, the Wake Up Jeffco and the property owners have 3 primary goals. 1, to invalidate the city's rezoning of 7 parcels authorizing industrial use, which would include the operation of a data center. Secondly, to restore the rezoned parcels to their prior zoning classifications, which would either be a non-urban or a residential use. And thirdly, to invalidate the infrastructure development and funding agreement, which the City Council approved on March 30th. The basis for the plaintiff's claims include count 1, that the city's rezoning decision constitutes what's called unlawful spot zoning. Count 2, the city's rezoning decision does not comply with Missouri zoning statutes. Count 3, in having discussions, calls, meetings, text messages, and emails with CRG, all behind closed doors, the city violated its own city code sunshine provisions. Count 4, in having these same discussions, calls, meetings, text messages, and emails with CRG, all behind closed doors, the city violated the Missouri Sunshine Law. Count 5, the city failed to post proper public notice of the March 30th special meeting that approved the infrastructure development and funding agreement. Count 6, the city failed to post proper public notice of the November 24th, 2025 council meeting that approved the rezoning. Count 7, the city's approval of the infrastructure development and funding agreement violates the residents' due process rights under the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Count 8, as shown by the email and text messages, CRG and the city acted collusively for the city to approve the annexation, rezoning, and infrastructure development and funding agreement without complying with the requirements of the Missouri Sunshine Law. Count 9, the actions of CRG and the city constitute a civil conspiracy in which the city issued all the necessary approvals and entered into all the agreements requested by CRG, but in a way in which the city violated the provisions of the Missouri Sunshine Law. Count 10, the city's practice of banning public comments in special meetings is an unconstitutional prior restraint on the right to free speech under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Count 11, the city's decision approving the infrastructure development and funding agreement is arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, and unlawful because there's no competent and substantial evidence showing the city had information at the time it made the decision concerning the data center's water and electric usage, the ability of the city to supply water and electricity to the data center, the potential harmful effects to public health and the environment by noise, heat, electromagnetic radiation, and the loss of habitat for endangered species. And finally, in count 12, Wake Up Jeffco and the other plaintiffs allege that the city failed to perform its mandatory duty to comply with section 405.555 in the Festus City Code to investigate the over 300 complaints filed by city residents alleging that the city should investigate the harmful effects of a data center. In this context, what permeates this entire process is that based on exhibits which are attached to the lawsuit, which consists of various emails and text messages, show several offensive remarks made by city officials calling opponents of the data center project, quote, the sideshow of the uneducated masses, and urging other city officials to, quote, keep the flock herded. The lawsuit asks the court to order the defendants to pay all reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred by the plaintiffs, in addition to taking the three actions I previously described. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Lori Merriman. She is the managing member of Wake Up Jeffco LLC. Lori?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. As Steve said, I'm Lori Merriman. I am behind Wake Up Jeffco LLC, and I am a homeowner that is directly impacted by the location of this data center. And they've put it in a residential area surrounded by residents. There's no industrial areas around it, and they've done this. It's going to affect our home, our health, our environment, our properties, and it was important enough to wake up Jeffco and let them know that what the city is doing to us and other residents is not right, and we are not going to stand for it. I'm greatly encouraged by the outcome of the elections. I know that the city is still saying that we are a minority, but if you look at the polling numbers from Tuesday, it was record turnouts at the polls, and the incumbents were overturned by a huge number of votes. We are in the process of working on a recall for the mayor and the rest of the council members as well. So we're not done fighting, and we're going to keep going on this. So anybody out there that thinks that this is a done deal, please know that it's not. By what Steve said and the lawsuit that has been filed, we are fighting this, and we will continue to fight. So please support Wake Up Jeffco LLC in any way that you can. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to Rosalind here.
Hi, I'm Rosalind Daniels. This is my fiance, William Wolf. We live in Ashford Place. Our property touches where the data center is supposed to go. This gives me great hope today. I am filled with hope and excitement, and I just believe that it's going to be amazing things that we can do, and I hope this actually gives hope to anybody facing this, not just in Festus, as the data centers are a country-wide thing currently. I just hope everybody can see this, and I thank everyone for their support that has helped us so far.
Go Tigers.
Hello, my name is Mary Fates. I live approximately 300 yards from where the proposed data center entrance will be. This completely upset my life. I retired in October of last year. My plan with my husband was to move to a smaller home and have my home become a family legacy for my daughter. When this began, we automatically knew we could not, in good conscience, turn this house over to my daughter to live in an area that potentially could have hazard to her health and to the water that we survive on through a well. So I'm very hopeful through this litigation today that someday in the near future, my daughter will be able to take over our homestead, and I'll be able to start enjoying my retirement. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this point, if anyone has any questions, we'd be glad to entertain those.
Can you talk about your level of experience in these types of cases and what you've seen from the city of Festus compared to maybe some of the other cities you've looked at?
Sure. This case is really the first lawsuit that's been filed in the St. Louis area challenging the city's or the government's decision to approve one of these massive data center projects. I do have some other clients in Montgomery County, a more rural area. They have a similar situation. They had filed a lawsuit against Montgomery County, which is currently pending in Cole County and Jefferson City.
How have the Festus city officials, behaved in your opinion compared to other city officials?
Based on my experience with these data center projects, there appears to be a common playbook that is followed in every single case. Initially, a data center developer approaches the local government, says, hey, we've got a great deal for you, but we can't tell you anymore unless you agree to keep things secret, not tell anybody, sign an NDA, things like that. Then they convince the city what a great deal it is they're selling them. At that point, they ask the city to amend the city's ordinances to allow for data center construction and operation. Then they have the city or the local government annex in whatever real property needs to be annexed in, so they have jurisdiction over it. The next step is they all have to rezone the property to allow for an industrial use, which allows for the data center operation. And then finally, they enter into an infrastructure development agreement. And interestingly enough, these agreements are all called the same thing. They're all called an infrastructure development and funding agreement, all the ones I've seen, which is interesting. You would think agreements would have different names. And then the very last step, I misspoke, is the issuance either of what's called a Chapter 68 or a Chapter 100 revenue bond issuance, either by the local government or regional court approval. That's what issues in the case of Montgomery County, $35 billion worth of revenue bonds, which are 100% acquired by the data center operator. With the funds that the county got in that case, they use it to buy all the computer servers, equipment, whatnot, that go into the data center, and the city doesn't have to pay sales tax on that. So that's a tremendous savings for the data center. And again, it just shows, these are just examples. It's a common playbook followed in every one of these cases I've dealt with.
So should the courts side with the plaintiffs here and find wrongdoing by the city of Festus and CRG, where do you go from there? Does that invalidate the development agreement?
Yeah, well, the specific relief we're asking is that based on all these sunshine law violations, the lack of what's called competent and substantial evidence. In other words, they didn't have enough of the facts to say this is okay to do this here. That's why we're asking the court to invalidate the rezoning and to invalidate the development agreement. And if the court does that, then the project is dead. It's dead in the water.
Are you expecting a response from the? Are you expecting a response from CRG? Have you received any comment from them?
No, the lawsuit has only just been filed. The St. Louis County has yet to even issue the summonses, so neither of the two defendants have been served, although I'm sure they have downloaded a copy of the petition on CaseNet and read it. So once they are served, then they have 30 days to file a response.
And of these 12 counts that you listed, is there one that you consider the most serious violation of either city code or state law?
I think all 12 counts are serious violations. They all exhibit, again, this pattern in practice of doing things behind closed doors so no one knows about it. So the citizens never learn about it, because they know if the citizens found out, the same thing that happened to the 4 council people down in Festus. They won't be council people very long.
Regardless of the outcome of this lawsuit, could the new composition of the city council down there either stop or undo the existing approval?
Sure. If you look at a copy of the Infrastructure Development and Funding Agreement in section 3, paragraph A, there's a specific provision that deals with terminating the agreement. And under the plain language that's written there, the city can reject the project at any time. So if the new council, comprised of the 4 new councilmen, and I don't know to what extent the other 4 can be swayed, but in the event that the majority of the city council votes to reject the agreement, all they have to do is provide 15 days notice of that decision to the developer, and the deal is canceled. And the city has to refund whatever money that has been provided to them by the developer so far.
And for Lori, Rosalind, or Mary, when you see or hear those text messages, what goes through your mind as well that this is what's happening behind the scenes?
So one of the things that when those sunshine documents first started coming out, it was insulting to think that that's what our representatives, the people that were elected to represent and lead the city, would think of their constituents. That's not leadership. That's not representation. That is insulting. And that says to me that the government has forgotten what their job actually is and who they represent. At that point, the only one they were representing is somebody from St. Louis, the CRG. That was not representing the people that elected them. It was terrible.
I just have one other question. I don't know if you can describe or explain what happened in any of those meetings, those closed door meetings, or what was being discussed. You know, was developers saying, "Hey, here's what we need to do." Can you describe it?
Under the Sunshine Law, whenever a government goes into a closed session, they are required to keep minutes of what happens in the closed session. They never release copies of those closed minutes until the contract is negotiated, things are final, things such as that. But in connection with the lawsuit, we have requested in our request for production of documents, which we will be filing copies of all closed minutes for the city's Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the City Council from July 1st, 2025 up through March 30th, 2026. So we don't know now what happened in the closed session, but we will find out.
Else from you guys, the residents, that you want to add? I mean, we have a combination of, some good victories for you guys here in the last couple of days.
Definitely. Laura, you can come up with me. What just happened with the recall was amazing. I said it before, but I am really so proud of the city of Festus for coming together, and that was a huge win. And it's exciting this week. I said it already, but it's just been so amazing how we have all. I've lived in Festus my whole entire life, and I've never seen the city come together in that way, and that is truly amazing. And actually sad that our government is what has caused that. Their horrendous actions and how they have really treated us. I mean, it really has been horrible how they have treated us. Just going to meetings and having to be wanded down, our purses searched, and the CRG people not.
They go in the back door where we have to go through all the security through the front door, but the CRG people and certain other special people get to go in the side door and skip all of that. So that right there is a message to the residents of Festus of what they think of us as well. I've actually brought that up at the council meetings in some of my speeches at them. I think I've spoken probably at every single one of them, maybe missed one since November. But the way that they have treated us has been horrendous. It's embarrassing, honestly, that that's our government that we're looking at, and that's how they're treating the residents. But like Rosalind said, I am so proud of how Festus has banded together, showed up at the polls on Tuesday, voted out the incumbents. I am so proud of our city for doing that. And we're not done. Like I keep saying, we are not done. Everybody needs to know that we will keep fighting this as long as we possibly can.
Any other questions? If not, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
If anyone needs one-on-one interviews, these guys will be available, so just whatever you guys need, just let them know.
So the Wake Up Jeffco press conference just concluded. Copies of the lawsuit and information that was just told here by the attorney will be posted to Festus News Network, Jack Inman's Facebook account. Thank you all for joining us for this live stream, and make sure I got the sound on. I do. Thank you all for joining the live stream. More information will be coming. Please stay tuned, and remember to sign the recall petition.